Welcome to White Pill Radio, the roughly every other episode version of Theology on Air, which is an outgrowth of Theology by the Pint, which is an awesome ministry in Houston, Texas that you should show up to from time to time. Go to theologybythepint.org and learn about when our events are, which are every month, where we talk about interesting and fascinating and controversial topics around craft beer, and usually a couple of hours. I mean, it's fun. You should check it out. theologybythepint.org, but there's so much to talk about. Of course, we can't do it at one event. We have to have a podcast as well. That's what Theology on Air is, and White Pill Radio is when we look at those controversial news topics from a Christian point of view. This is post-apologetic, ultimately hopeful, applied theology that I like to say is blessed talk, but not happy talk. So, we're going to try to find some white pills today in, I don't know, immigration debates and ICE raids and all sorts of stuff.
Charismatic church blowing up.
Charismatic churches. And that's the white pill writes itself right there. But thank you for joining. I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor at First Lutheran, and we have the Grand Poobah of Theology by the Pint, Sarah
Stone Ulrich.
Ulrich.
Yep. Hey, guys.
And I'm Ken. I'm an accountant.
Ken's back after a
hiatus.
A short hiatus, but glad you're back. And we did have one more member who is supposed to be here today, but I don't know. Maybe
he'll join halfway. And
maybe he slid on the ice on the streets in Houston. That is still here for a week. And I'm kidding. Anyway, hopefully Paul can make it. If he can't, he can't. But we're going to keep the door open and the chair open for him. So
yeah,
let's jump in. Minneapolis, St. Paul's, all the rage these days, quite literally. Sarah, give us a summary and something you posted that you maybe got some pushback on. So unpack a little bit.
Well, so I posted something to social media several days ago, and it got a lot of heat coming back my way. I probably shouldn't have posted it, given my my role as executive director. I should probably stay neutral. But one thing that I've been really frustrated about, and by the way, I posted this before Alex Preddy, that shooting happened. And it was unfortunate timing because then that happened right after, and so I think my post was read through the lens of that. But the post was about something I've been frustrated about when it comes to the whole immigration, ICE raids, all that kind of stuff, which is trying to figure out what's actually happening. When you're just sitting at home and you don't know because you're not in the thick of it, and you hear all these stories. And by the way, you hear stories on both sides of the aisle saying, like, some people are saying, well, they're just taking like the abuelas that are making tortillas down the road. And then other people are like, no, they're only taking convicted felons who are rapists and murderers and selling fentanyl. And some people are saying, anyway, so those are kind of the two extremes. So I posted something that was a repost from a pastor. And it's talking about how there's, at the same time that there's all this, division about the actual subject, there's also a propaganda war going on with the way that the news reports things. And they gave several examples. The one that had sort of become famous in the last few days is the picture that was, I think the New York Times posted, a little boy in the sweater, so cute, looking so afraid, saying that they took him off to jail. How could they do this terrible thing? And then, of course, it turns out that he was left behind because his, quote, dad, assuming that's his dad, abandoned him, just ran off. And then they tried to give him to the mom, but she wouldn't take him she wouldn't kind of come to the door and claim him. And so they had to do something with him. So they took him to, a temporary holding place. And anyway, that was one example. And the post was several examples like that. The old man picture, he's in his bathrobe coming out in the freezing cold. How could you take this old man? It turns out that he's harboring these two awful sex offenders, and on the story goes. The tear gas baby was, they had been there for hours, and they left their baby in the car. These terrible parents, if they are parents.
And they lied about.
Sure.
Yeah. Coming home from a basketball game.
Right. Now, for every one of those stories, there could be a story where somebody really is being mistreated by ICE. And this is the whole point, is that I don't know. As a citizen, I think, when we talk about 80-20 issues, I think the immigration one was at least an 80-20 issue if the idea was that ICE was going to take people that were criminals, not just because they broke the immigration law, but some other unique crime had happened. Drugs, human trafficking, these kinds of things. And they would get rid of those people. I think most people agree we want those people leaving the country.
Well, and it seems like every time there's one of these protests for ICE, the person that ICE is trying to arrest always just happens to be some pedophile, right? And so Peretti or Good or whoever is protesting gets labeled like a pedophile protector, because we're just trying to go round up the pedophiles, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're stopping us from doing that. But it's like, It's the Stephen Miller stat where it's like 70% of the people that we're deporting are actually violent criminals. And like, they're not. They're simply not. And so for every one case where, you know, the illegal immigrants look bad, I would say there's probably, you know, probably a 1 to 5 where the just people are getting swept up off the street. Where is the abuela selling tamales in the Walmart parking lot?
Right.
Okay, but wait. So your 1 to 5 number.
I'm asking, does truth even matter? Just the same as you, right?
Well, so the Washington Post, I think it was the Washington Post, just put out an article talking about how the percentages have changed from the beginning. It was a really high number, and those that were getting swept up that weren't criminals it was very, very low. But it has changed, and of course, we have to ask the question why. And the Republicans are saying why is partly because the efforts are being impeded by all these protesters that are making it so difficult. So now instead of being able to go to the jails or go to do the things that they were going to do before, now they're having to like work around. And so more sort of non-criminals are getting caught in the net. But your 1 to 5 came out of that from where?
I'm saying in the same thing that the Washington Post is saying, that like, yes, at the very beginning it was, well, we've got criminals in jails that we can easily deport, right? And you can bump those statistics up. But once you get rid of the criminals in jails, it becomes very...
If you can get rid of them.
Is Minnesota handing over the criminals in jails?
That's part of the issue.
What I'm saying is the majority of America can, and Stephen Miller's numbers get really high. But then like a month later, like you've got to actually start going door to door.
I want to go back to this though. You said that those on the streets it just so happens that they're always arresting a PDF file.
Yeah.
You know, and so isn't that strange that that's who they're always arresting? Therefore, those on the street with the whistles are always impeding that. However, are ICE agents supposed to get on a megaphone and announce to the whole neighborhood, this is who we're coming to arrest and this is their crime? The answer to that is no.
I'm going even before that, because the ICE agents are not the ones saying this is a pedophile.
Yeah.
It's coming from the White House
Homeland
press
Security,
secretary.
yeah.
Or the
But
spokesperson.
that is part of who they're getting.
What I'm
right?
saying is, do you trust them?
No, stop. That is part of who they're getting, right?
It is part of who they're giving, but is it the person they were trying to arrest when they, when
so
Freddie got
you
shot?
are saying they need to announce who they're arresting before they go into the neighborhood?
I am asking if the White House administration is lying.
No, they're not lying.
About that specific
how do you know?
raid.
My whole thing.
And that's why I asked her, does truth even matter anymore?
Of course it matters. That's the frustration of this whole thing.
That's the
being
whole
able
point.
to get to it. Yeah.
I mean,
Does the media always tell the truth? For
factual
example,
but not truthful, right? Very fine people on both sides, right? Fiery but mostly peaceful protests, right?
Okay, the
ivermectin
very fine people is completely debunked.
I think he knows that. That's the point, right?
Factual,
right,
but not truthful.
Right.
It's not even factual.
It's a quote that
those words came out of his mouth, but like,
right.
Very fine people on both sides, fiery but mostly peaceful protest. Ivermectin is a horse dewormer. Factual but not truthful.
When you say not truthful, you mean like it's not the whole truth. It's not.
Ivermectin is a horse dewormer, right?
Yes.
But that is not a truthful statement.
Well, it is a truthful statement.
It's a factual statement, but you can lie with facts.
Well, I get what you're saying, and maybe I'm just being pedantic.
Saying for horses, it's used as a dewormer, but
yes, but it's also human medicine too. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I think we all know what you're trying to
say. The protests were fiery, but mostly peaceful. That's not the point. You would never call. And I'm saying to this administration, does truth even matter? Right? Because
yes,
now
it matters. Yes. What they're saying is we're getting really terrible PDF files off the street. And the people on the street do not know who they're arresting. That's the point. They don't, right? Do you agree with that? Yes or no? Do the people on the street protesting with their whistles literally committing felonies?
They do not know.
Justice. Therefore, it could be a PDF file, right?
It could be.
Okay, there. That's all we need to know. So
is that all we need to know?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So when this administration says he approached officers with a firearm, that is factual.
Yes.
Is it truthful? When you go to 99% of the people and you say, this person approached officers with a firearm, what is a mental picture they paint?
Sure. No, that's not a fair way to say it.
What about the video that
is it factual or is it truthful?
It's factual. And I don't like the distinction you're making, but I know what you're trying to say.
Right.
It's not the whole truth. It doesn't paint the actual picture because no, he had his camera, his firearm was, tucked in his waistband.
Well,
you're talking about Alex Preddy now if the audience isn't kind of keeping up. Yeah.
I mean, even like the fact that he attacked officers, right? I mean, I
don't know if attacked is the word I would use.
Right. Yeah. You could say he attacked officers. There at one point when he's maced, right? He is he's scrambling, right?
Yeah. And trying to get away.
If you even put a finger on the nose of an officer, that's battery.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you could say he was assaulting officers, right? Is that the mental picture people paint when they hear somebody approached officers with a firearm and assaulted them?
No,
No, and this isn't even mentioning the outright lies.
Yeah.
He was an assassin, right?
Who was an assassin? Alex Preddy?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, is somebody actually saying that?
Is somebody actually saying that, Evan?
He was an assassin?
I haven't heard that. I don't know what you're talking
Sorry,
about.
Stephen
we really
Miller
turned a corner here.
Stephen Miller referred to him as an assassin who was trying to murder federal agents.
Oh wow.
Read the quote.
Christy Nome
Read
said,
the quote.
would you like to pull it up?
No.
It's the one that JD Vance reposted. It came from Stephen Miller.
I don't know that it's particularly helped to relitigate this whole thing. Did
Well,
you see
yeah.
the video that came out yesterday?
Was he
for
brandishing?
example? Was he brandishing?
No, he wasn't.
Well, they saw it. The reason he's dead.
Well,
is
wait. What does
Can
brandishing?
I finish what I'm? Can I
Go for it,
finish
go
the
for it.
statement, please?
Go for
Thank
it.
you. The reason that he was killed is because he obstructed federal officers, which is against the law. Everything he did that day was a violation of law. You do understand that, right?
Sure.
Okay. He had a gun. He had 2 clips, or at least he had the capacity for something like 20 bullets.
Mhm.
Okay. So it wasn't a minimal sort of self-defense. Okay. So and in the heat of the moment, within a split second, multiple things happened. A gun was seen.
Mhm.
It was said that he had a gun.
Mhm.
The gun was pulled.
Mhm.
It accidentally
off,
discharged, almost
yeah.
certainly. That created a powder keg.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so I am not going to, even if not all of the protocols were followed correctly, which Stephen Miller also has said. Okay, I'm not going to, not fault him for putting himself in that position. Period. So, was he an assassin? Well, I think that we would be naive if we didn't say that these aren't people potentially with very bad intentions.
Well, and we now know he also was there, a week prior?
Yes.
Got a rib broken because he
Mhm.
got into a scuffle.
And
with
that
them.
video came out yesterday where
Mhm.
he's kicking and spitting at people and engaging in fights.
Mhm.
He seems like a highly disturbed person who may have been committing suicide by cop.
Have y'all ever been on a jury?
Yes.
No.
I was the foreman.
Would you be allowed to play that first video in a criminal case about the in a murder trial about the
It
second
depends
video?
on the judge.
I have no idea. Yeah.
It does depend on the judge, but 9
Okay.
times out of 10, judges throw stuff like that out because. And does truth even matter, right?
You
I-
keep saying that.
Well,
Continue, though.
because we've
Nobody
seen
thinks it
so
doesn't
many
matter.
people. Well, I've seen so many people saying he was being violent. Look at this video, right? This happened moments before. No, it happened like a week before. But in a post-truth era, it's all about propaganda. It's all about
So you agree with me that there's a propaganda war happening? Would you?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's being waged by both fronts,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I
I'll
am
give you that.
very frightened by the propaganda that is coming out of the administration, and a little.
Oh, see, now I don't think the administration I would put in the propaganda war arena. I think it's people on the far left and the far right that I would say are really mucking it up for the rest of us that just want to know what happened or what's happening.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the gun. It's like you can't fight a cop with a gun. You can't fight a cop, right? Like it's illegal to fight a cop, right?
Well,
This is a Second Amendment issue.
What you can do and what's wise are maybe different things. Everyone on the right agrees he had a right to have that gun. They also agree he has a right to protest, but he wasn't protesting. He was violating the law.
Kash Patel said you literally don't have a right to have a gun.
Yeah,
At-
Kash Patel
at
may
these
have
protests.
overplayed his.
I did not hear him say that.
Yeah. He said you cannot have a gun at a protest.
Well,
But like all the right wingers
what-
sound
what-
like left
what-
wingers talking about Rittenhouse.
No, I agree.
You know?
with you.
What this guy and Rittenhouse are on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Is that what I
But
said?
Was Preddy protesting?
He was
And then
obstructing.
some.
Was he
He was
protesting?
obstructing.
More than protesting, he was obstructing.
So he was not protesting.
Okay. Is obstruction a protest?
No.
It's an extreme protest.
Is it a form of protest? Right.
It's such
We're going to
an
get into
extreme-
weird definitions, but
Yeah, yeah.
I would say if you define, like, I'm biting all of these bullets. Yes, he was obstructing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying the AI stuff because there's disinformation on
I
both
know.
sides. People are saying that first video was AI, right? There's
Oh,
so
wow.
much disinformation.
Well, and then they changed his face
Then
for
they
the
found
picture.
5 different versions of it because everyone had their phone out. So it's
Yeah.
definitely real.
yeah, exactly. And his family copped to it. I'm not saying I'm biting every single bullet possible here.
Yeah. What are you
good,
saying?
good
Thank you
shoot
for
or good shoot or bad shoot, right? Y'all have law enforcement friends, right? Or family?
Yes.
Sure.
Good shoot or bad shoot?
On the whole, I would say good or bad are not the right words. Is it reasonable that they did that? Yes, given the circumstances that I laid out, that many other people have laid out, for the fact that the gun discharged, that it was a heat of the moment.
Would your law enforcement friends say it was a good shoot or bad shoot?
I think
That's usually
I think most would say I don't know. I think most would say it's probably a good shoot.
Okay.
And they would also say it was tragic and
Right.
like the split-second decisions that you have to make given what you have, the knowledge you have.
And it was all
I don't know.
totally
I want to
avoidable.
wait for more investigation to come out. Let me say this. I know I sound like I'm saying this just to say it, but I really do mean it. The deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good are awful and tragic. And even if they were being in the way and obstructing and overly passionate and overly zealous, they did not deserve to die. And I hate that. I hate it. And they were made in God's image, and all those things are true. I think the sort of left can't hear the right say that and believe them, because then we will say things like, but was it, as you say, a good shoot, or was it justified? Or and my whole point in bringing all of this up is just that as a regular American in a red city or red state that this stuff isn't happening in because people aren't obstructing the law officers, I want to know what's happening elsewhere, and I feel like I can't know. And then when you look at the way that AI is starting to change things up, I feel like, will I ever know the truth? Will I ever know what's happening? And it's very scary. So, but what are you saying about all of it? What's your kind of stance? Hey guys, Sarah Stone here. Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure is a riveting podcast episode, but Theology by the Pint needs your help to continue providing these podcasts, offering our in-person events, and growing so we can bring thoughtful conversation and the hope of the gospel to a world that's increasingly walking away from church and from faith. Now that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, all donations are tax deductible, so we've crunched the numbers, and if each listener of this episode gave just $1 for each episode you listen to, we'd put a huge dent in our annual budget. So consider giving today. Go to theologybythepint.org/give and click the link to donate. Thanks so much. And now back to our show.
I don't think it's a good shoot. And I would like the Supreme Court to revisit the concept of what's called officer-induced jeopardy, right? Like you're saying that Stephen Miller, it must be new because I haven't seen his latest statement saying that protocols were not followed, right? Mm-hmm. Officer-induced jeopardy is a weird legal concept that is it is almost impossible to hold an officer accountable, right? Because they are not to be judged by the same standard as you and me, right? They are to be judged on whether or not they feared for their life. Right, exactly. Whether or not they feared for their life. And like Evan said, heat of the moment, chaos, whether or not they are following protocol, which if Stephen Miller says they weren't, okay, then they weren't, right? Renee Good, should you be walking around a car that's like backing up and moving out, and should you be like circling that? Is that protocol? Well, should there be protocol? Is that officer-induced jeopardy, right? Could an officer stand in front of a car and induce a jeopardy to which he can fire into the window?
Right. I see what you're saying.
Could somebody be, all these people pinning down Alex Preddy with the mace in his eyes, anybody with mace in their eyes is going to be flailing their arms like he was, right? If he grabbed a cop's leg or something like that, is that battery on an officer?
No, at that point, I don't think they were saying battery. I mean, but he did at one point reach for something,
but
and there was a question about that. Yeah, the Renee Good thing is equally tricky.
Sure.
I hate the fact that we're even in a position, though, where the cop has to think in the 2 seconds he has, should I walk in front of the car? Is that following protocol? Because this lunatic is taking up space, trying to get in the way of me arresting terrible people and sending them back where they belong.
Thank you.
Then arrest her.
Huh?
Then arrest her.
Weren't they trying to? They were saying, get out of the car.
Yes.
And one of the issues is conflicting, another bad policing issue is when you get conflicting commands, right? Put your hands behind your head, get on the ground, right? And you get conflicting commands. Renee Good is like,
all that's
drive away.
All that is very
get out of the car, and
well, it was like, just go. And she wouldn't.
And then when somebody starts pulling out a car, she then goes away. Yeah, it's like, now I'll take for option one. Well, option one's over, right?
Yeah.
Now you don't have the option one. However, this masked person is pulling at your door and you're panicking. And
I grant that she panicked. I grant that. I don't think she was intending to cause a lot of harm, but she shouldn't have been there. She shouldn't have been in the way. And it is tragic.
So does it make any difference if these people are part of highly trained...
The signal group?
Yes. Where they are acting like a paramilitary insurgency, okay, more than people holding up signs. Does it make a difference?
I think it makes a difference. Then you have the governor and the mayor facilitating it, encouraging
the highest levels of government running cover, basically ignoring supremacy clause, okay, acting like they're not even part of this country.
Do y'all remember the Boogaloo Boys?
You didn't answer my question.
I am. Signal groups.
I don't care who the Boogaloo Boys are.
Well, go ahead, Ken. What were you going to say?
There are lots of groups that my friends may or may not have been in that other people, the people that were Governor Gretchen Whitmer, right, was the one that was the kidnapping plot.
Hoax.
Yeah.
Another hoax.
That well, I mean, there were like 12 feds and like 3 regular guys in that
call
group.
That a hoax.
Right. But some of those came from the groups that like I know people in.
Okay.
Now,
Okay,
does
so-
that
so-
mean it is that the entire group is a mass? The whole group is responsible for the actions of a few, right? Does that indicate blame for the entirety of the group?
No.
Well, but that's not really what I was bringing up.
Or are different people in the same group for different reasons?
Okay.
Some people think ICE is overstepping. Some people are straight up communists. Some people are like, Marxist
Well, of
Leninists.
course
Some
you have a
people are
variety, yeah.
right, Antifa. Some people are just like standard blue dog Democrats that just said like, hey, we actually like the idea of sanctuary
point?
cities. Well, my point is that membership in the group does not
Okay.
indicate ideology, does it?
Not necessarily, but
But
it's
the
still-
leadership does.
I mean, I for example, I want everyone to know I am not part of a counterinsurgency paramilitary signal chat.
Thank you for saying
That's
that.
a choice that I made, okay, because I am not so radicalized that I think that the federal government upholding the law, which they have every right to do, and the state has every obligation to partner with them, and they steadfastly refuse. I am not going to enter into a situation where I am working to obstruct that government.
Neither am I. Be clear. I take
And so to do so is wrong.
Okay.
Neither am I. I take comply or die like very, very seriously. I am 100% like if I were to advise somebody, I would not advise them to do what Nate Good did. I would not advise them to do what Alex Preddy did, right? The Alex Preddy situation is a little complicated because it's like if you saw an excessive use of force, like y'all saw the video of the initiation where the ICE officer shoves the lady blowing the whistle, right? And was that an excessive use of force? Maybe, maybe not. But how excessive would it have to get for you to do what Alex did?
Right. And that is where things get gray. I'll give you that. Yeah.
I mean, like I take comply or die very seriously. I think there is a limit though where I stand in between a
But do you think that any of that would be happening if people were not out there obstructing? The lady blowing the whistle is out there just to be a pill.
how short was the skirt?
No, it's not the same.
I know it's not the same.
But these guys
Yeah.
are fulfilling federal law under constant duress. The whistles alone are a violation of federal law.
which is
You understand
the
that,
excuse
right?
for the masks, right?
Well, yeah, they don't want to be doxxed.
So I mean, cops are literally doxxed, right? They wear it on their uniform.
Yeah.
It didn't have their home address on it.
You can probably
Anyway, whatever.
very easily.
Anyway.
Wait.
Go ahead.
How do we know an ICE officer's home address?
Well, this paramilitary insurgency group figures it out.
You can figure it out for cops.
They knew who James O'Keefe was. They figured out what his license plate number was. They have people. They have contact. It's like Fight Club. Okay, they have people at the rental car companies saying, "Well, this guy just showed up. This is his name. This is what car he's in." Then they have people who are trailing him.
No. The modern left protesters scare the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Right. The bit off the finger.
Yeah.
I was
That was
arguing with somebody
crazy.
who's saying Peretti is the one that bit off the finger.
No.
Right. Like the modern left does scare the heck out of me. Right. This isn't your old like Birmingham. Like we're gonna sit and like block traffic and like
For the sake of the innocent. Right.
Martin Luther King saying, "Don't lift a finger. Don't lift a finger.
right.
Don't lift a finger."
And when the police arrest you, go limp.
Yeah.
And go limp, right?
Is
The
that what-
modern
is that what they do?
protests
Right.
scare the heck out of me, right?
Right.
Because they think this is like some revolution, right? And I'm
To them, it is a revolution.
I'm very glad that an ICE officer hasn't like been killed in Minnesota yet. I am sweating because it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
The way I'm sweating that like more protesters are going to get shot. And
There's a
it's
great
only
way
matter
for
of
them to
time.
not get shot.
I mean,
Cooperation.
sure.
Yeah.
How about a protest?
Do we want to talk about like the Boston Massacre? Like if Crispus Attucks had only stayed inside,
I don't know much about that.
Oh,
How
okay.
about protest zones?
Protest zones?
Yeah, you can protest all you want. Here, you have this square block. Go protest. That's what they do at, for example, RNCs, big DNC conventions. Yeah, you can show up and protest. You do it over there. You don't do it in the street where you don't start blocking traffic, coordinating traffic. Those are the jobs
Getting in the way
of
of
a
the ICE
police
officers.
officer.
Yeah.
I am just wondering if the same standard would be applied to the Jan 6 police officers, you know? Like if we went
I
shot by
understand what you're saying.
frame by frame on like the Ashley Babbitt, if we looked at the signal groups or parlor groups that Ashley Babbitt was in, if we looked at the, you know, the Dominic Pizzola and the Proud Boys and the first people to break through the barrier on Jan 6, like would they stand up to this scrutiny? I wonder.
I think any time that someone is getting in the way of law enforcement, the consequences, the ante is upped on the potential consequences. So I mean, we talked in the last time that we had this conversation. Evan was saying, when I see red and blue lights behind me, I'm like afraid.
Me too.
And I
Comply
pull
or
my
die.
car over and,
Yeah.
you
Me
know.
too. Comply or die. I take that so freaking seriously.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know that, you know, if you obey the police, they won't shoot you, right? This means we have a group of people that can approach you and demand obedience under the threat of death. Like that kind of scares the heck out of me.
Well, you hope that
you
we
always-
have voted
yes.
in people that are going to apply the law that we have agreed on that is good and right.
You
And
would
we
hope
live
so.
in a free society and all of these kinds of things where we have the right to protest peacefully, like you were talking about. But that's not what's happening.
The problem is it's a blend of what's happening, right? Like Alex Preddy in the first video wasn't peaceful, in the second video he was, and that's kind of the problem. Well, chronological first video,
Was
right? Like in the second video, there were people blowing whistles, right? It's that's free speech, that's free assembly, right? Now, what he was doing in the chronologically first video is not free speech or assembly, right? That's not peaceable assembly. That's not a First Amendment protection to kick a taillight out, right? I'm surprised he didn't get arrested there.
And as many
'Cause
have
he's in
said, if he
Minneapolis.
was arrested, then
None of that
his
would
life would
happen.
have been saved.
Yeah.
So I think actually the police have been, well, such as they are police, have been way too lenient. I think all of these people, if they blow a whistle, I think they should go to jail. I think the idea that we're tolerating this, it's a powder keg, and you're going to have events like this. But I will agree with this, that a lot of politics is optics and PR, and I wouldn't necessarily call that propaganda, but I would say that a lot of politics is optics. You know, and you know, this situation is developing as we speak. I mean, today, Tom Homan said we're drawing down. Bovino is out. Blah, blah,
I've seen
blah.
a lot of taco tweets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Meaning Trump always
Chickens out. Yeah.
chickens out. So, yeah.
What's the difference between a whistle and the British are coming? Paul
One
Revere.
is a
Well, let me
warning.
go get a whistle.
They're both warnings.
No, the whistles are to distract and add like mayhem to the moment. Like the rape whistles.
In the signal groups, they're supposed to indicate that ICE is here.
Well, all they ever do, once they're there, they just blow and blow and blow to let the whole neighborhood they're there.
To let the whole neighborhood know they're there. The British are coming, right?
Which is a crime.
What would be the British are coming is also a crime.
They're already there.
My point about the whistles, you've watched the videos and you've heard the whistles, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever had anybody like really annoy you, like maybe a brother or something in the backseat of a car, you know?
I think
I
think the whistles are making things worse. I'm going to bite that bullet.
Yeah.
I think the whistles
It's
are
not
making
a
things worse.
bullet. It's just
It's illegal.
Well, when I say I'll bite the bullet, I'm like,
I know what you mean.
I will
I'll
concede
concede.
so many of these points. And you say it is
I want
illegal,
you to
though.
concede them all.
And
I
you
won't
say
be
it is
happy
illegal.
until you do.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Okay.
it's illegal to impede a federal officer.
Okay,
He's
well, let me
here.
ask you this, just to maybe close this chapter out and get to the next article. You said at the beginning, does truth even matter? What was your point in saying that? Because I think I know you well enough to think that you do think truth matters.
I'm super cynical. And I do think, like you said, the propaganda war is being fought on two fronts. Not just by the media, the new media, but also by the administration.
You got to pull that mic
Eat that
up.
mic.
You can pull that mic away a little bit. Ken, you can pull that mic away just a little bit.
Awesome. Oh, you're saying I'm clipping?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I'm just really saddened by the discourse and the ghoulish behavior that I've been seeing by
The left.
not
The left.
in the face of Charlie Kirk, yes, and in the face of Renee Good and Alex Preddy on the right. And
It's not ghoulish. What is ghoulish?
Give an example.
What is the ghoulish behavior on the right?
how do you think this ICE is doing? Pretty good.
Oh, like really being gross and crass.
Really,
about it.
really being
Yeah.
gross and crass. I
And
mean,
that is happening and it's gross and
Yeah.
it shouldn't.
Okay. Well, you had not mentioned that example yet.
Yeah.
sorry, but what I'm saying is like what I am seeing on the right, you know,
The
and
far right, yeah.
and the absolutely dragging this person through the mud and smearing him with like stuff that is obviously not knowable yet, right? that second video had not come out at the time where they're calling him an assassin, right?
Yeah.
Where he looks like he wanted to do the
Did he
maximum.
say he was an assassin or a potential assassin?
The DHS official account said it looks like Peretti wanted to do maximum damage to massacre law enforcement.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Looks
JD
like, meaning that's a reasonable conclusion given the fact that he was armed as a
thought we had
peaceful demonstrator and had
Presumption
two
of
clips.
innocence.
presumption of innocence, and also, like, y'all sound like the Rittenhouse left, you know? The left during Rittenhouse
Look,
said
he
these
went
ex-
in with, yeah.
said these exact same things.
Difference though. Context is different. Rittenhouse went into a lawless environment where there were no police. These are the police. Rittenhouse stated
the police
goal
were
was
a
to
block
protect
away.
businesses.
The police were a block away. That's who
The
Rittenhouse
poli-
went to.
are the police in Minneapolis ordered to help the ICE agents?
You're saying, like,
Or
are
the
they
National
cooperating
Guard.
now, or were they cooperating then?
Then.
They seem to be cooperating now, but
well,
I mean, that's
yeah.
part
We
of
all
the,
know that they weren't then. We all know that.
Right.
We all know that Walls literally had the National Guard pulled up to bring the donuts to the protesters.
It also goes both ways, though, right? Because with the Renee Good situation, like, ambulance and cops weren't allowed in the scene of the crime until way later. The guy who shot Renee Good, like, took off in an Escalade or an SUV, and, like, that is not protocol at all. If an officer-involved shooting happens, right, you do not tamper with the forensic scene of the crime. You do not flee the scene of the crime. Like, there is no protocol here at all.
It is a little bit like the Wild West in Minneapolis right now. I'll give you that. I want to get back to the question.
Sure. The post-truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
You said, does truth even matter? What was your point?
I think it matters, and I am saddened that
Okay.
right on
That it seems like it doesn't to so many.
to everybody.
Yeah.
It is so disheartening to see. Yeah, the lies coming out of the administration, and even like Matt Walsh, who, like, I like what is a woman, you know, like, it's like when he stops talking and just lets his opponents, like, make fools of themselves,
Sure.
right? Oh, when Matt Walsh starts talking, I like him. I know how that sounds, but he's just being an absolute degenerate. I would say anti-Christian. Like,
I haven't heard his comments on this, but I will say this to close this out. I agree with you
yeah,
that it is very sad that people don't seem to be concerned with the truth, but that they seem to be concerned with upholding their side. And I have found myself being a little guilty of it. I can feel it when so someone says to me, did you hear there was another shooting in Minneapolis? And I immediately assume that probably the left was at fault and probably the right was not at fault, because that's my side. And so I have to then swallow it and be like, but I don't know all the details. Let me go look for the details. Let me see it, and be willing to, concede when there are some gray areas for sure. So maybe the white pill of all this is, regardless of what side you're on, always take the deep breath and go and hunt for the facts and see, because your side does make mistakes too.
we ran around the
Right.
table saying good shoot or bad shoot. Do you think the Peretti
Oh
was
gosh, no,
good shoot or
reopen
bad?
it.
Kidding.
No, I say
Okay.
we move on, but
Okay.
but it is interesting, the
Yeah.
post-truth thing. Anyway.
Well,
Hi, welcome, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey.
Good to have you, Paul. Eat that mic. That mic is less sensitive than that, so you can pull that mic closer to you.
Okay.
Okay. Do you still want to do this article? It's kind of related to it.
Up to you.
Okay. Well, I'll go quick. Okay. Tim Pool.
Who is Tim Pool?
Tim Pool is a podcaster, big, YouTuber, pretty influential on the right. I would say he's kind of a centrist right figure these days. Came out of kind of the dissident left. Anyway, so let's see. He is quoted as saying this. Let me just lay this groundwork here. He said, "I'm not licking the boot. It's my boot. I voted for it. I'm wearing the boot." In other words, those who oppose the actions in Minnesota these days, right? They see the government is coming in this kind of draconian, forceful way, overplaying their hand, breaking laws, etc. And those of us who are like approve, generally speaking, of what's taking place with ICE and all of that, if we say yes, go, keep doing what you're doing, we think what you're doing is what you were elected to do, we're on board with it, it's lawful, it's legal, etc. We're accused of being a bootlicker. Like, oh, now all of a sudden, instead of questioning authority, we're on the side of authority.
Okay.
And so what Tim Pool, he's owning it. He's saying, yeah, I'm on the side of authority because this is the authority that I voted for. This is what
Right.
Trump said he was going to do. He said he was going to have the biggest mass deportation campaign in history. He said it over and over and over and
Yeah.
over again, and his voters voted for it, which means a majority of America voted for it, which means the swing states voted for it. That's what people want. And so he says this, and of course, then the critique, for example, someone quotes from Big Brother. from 1984, George Orwell. It was all right. Everything was all right. The struggle was finished. He had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother. And that's a reference to, spoiler alert, Winston at the end of Big Brother finally being broken by the state through fear and intimidation tactics.
And the rats.
And the rats. 2 + 2 = 5, basically.
Right.
Yeah. That's when you know that you have given up the will to fight power, right?
Yeah.
To fight authority, is when you admit something that you know to be false. Right?
Sure.
And so basically the accusation then is Tim has become that. Okay,
Right.
Tim used to be part of the dissident left, and there used to be a lot of people, even in the conservative movement, who are part of the kind of dissident group that, sort of don't like the state, don't like government, don't like the police state, worry about it, now going to the other side saying, I'm the boot. Okay.
Right.
And I would defend Tim Pool in that. That's kind of the bottom line. In that, the idea that you have legitimate concerns about the size of government, the role of government, the abuse of power by the government does not mean that you forsake law and order.
Mhm.
And that what I believe this particular administration is doing on this front is basic law and order. It is literally the law. They are following the letter of the law. If the other side doesn't like the law, they should run on a platform that says, we're going to abolish immigration law and then get elected and then do that. Okay, but they can't do that. They won't do that. Every time they try to pass immigration laws that are more liberal, it fails. They blow the phones up and they walk away from the brink. So this is the law. He's enforcing the law. The Biden administration openly defied the law, openly broke the law, never ran on a policy of letting in 10 million people, and yet did it.
Right.
And so we're dealing with, on many, many fronts, really, I think it's definitional to our age. I should have made a list. But we're dealing with an asymmetry of justice, of asymmetry of power that I think is driving people like me kind of crazy, okay? Where it's so easy to commit crime, right? People can ransack a jewelry store, just go in and do it. But it's so hard to find those people, convict them, restore order. It's so easy to let in 10 million people, but it's obviously proving almost impossible given what we just talked about, the difficulties of removing 10 million people.
Figuring who they are.
And so the asymmetry seems to be against those of us who highly value law and order and safety for our children, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Think about the other situations that people are called a bootlicker, right? Tim Pool is under the boot as much as me, right? Tim Pool probably doesn't support the war in Ukraine for sure, and we're funding that, right? He's iffy on Gaza, but he doesn't support, at least the last thing I heard him say was he doesn't support any more funds going to Israel, right? But they are still robbing him at gunpoint from taking his taxes to do those things that he doesn't want to do. But now he gets to just play with his little ICE officer figurines and say, oh, my guy beat your guy, right? And he's like, I'll say I'm the one wearing the boots, just because you support this one thing doesn't mean you're the one wearing the boots, right? To say I'm wearing the boots, they look so good. No, you're under the boot. Dude, you're under the boot as much as I am, as much as you are, as much as you are, right? The government will steal your money, they will inflate your currency, and they will do things that you don't agree with. That is the whole point of the phrase bootlicker, right?
Yeah, but sometimes they do the right thing.
Okay, and sometimes it's the same.
That's the hope.
And sometimes it's the same cops that will take your guns as the ones that will take your immigrants, right? Sometimes it's the same ones that'll go into a church and round up the immigrants that are claiming asylum there, and then sometimes it's the same ones that'll go into church and say you can't meet because of COVID, right?
Yeah,
that's the whole point of the bootlicker phrase.
But I
you should be an anarchist.
Yeah, but I would say that saying that a person is 1984-esque, claiming that 2 + 2 is 5. Okay, applying that to someone like Tim Pool, who is basically all he's saying is, yes, I want the government to honor the law and to arrest wrongdoers. That's what he's saying, and deport people who are here illegally. That's all he's saying. To equate that, okay, to therefore being so propagandized that you're now on board with everything the state does is a false equivalency. And
that's
that's the sort of discourse where we're at in this country. Where basically if you literally say it's okay if ICE goes into a city and deports illegal immigrants, now you're a Nazi. Now you're now 2 + 2 is 5 to you. You're all these things. And that's where we're at. That seems to be the two sides, and I think that's highly lamentable and basically not in accord with the truth. I can agree with ICE doing that and disagree with the the deficit that we have, the spending, the over-militarization of the government, and so forth. In other
You can
areas.
obey the government and still not agree with them about
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
In the same monologue. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, Paul gets to jump in, but you got to hold that
Okay.
mic even closer.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, where do I start? So
Yeah.
taking immigration, like I was discussing with somebody that Obama actually deported far
Yep.
more people than
No,
Trump has done, and so it was done in a different way, in a different style.
They never got into the country though. It's really not equivalent. They were stopped at the border and sent back, and he called it a deportation.
Oh,
They
interesting.
did not have to do what Trump is
What-
doing.
It wasn't as hard
Well,
as what,
certainly it
yeah.
wasn't right. Well,
Turned away as
and,
many,
and
yeah.
one of the, so I would certainly give Trump credit for closing the border. The border was completely open. It wasn't as open under Obama as it was under Biden. But I think what's my point is that is this necessary? Is the militarization of rounding up people, families, children, absolutely necessary? It's more for the optics, and I think that's what Trump. I mean, maybe you can say like that's good. That's it works. Like creating fear actually does close the border. There's a case to be made for that, but it's not a good long-term policy. And I think, well, even for Republicans, you're going to start losing support, and I think he's starting to lose that support. So, so I'm just going to pause it there. Actually,
Yeah, I don't know. The answer is yes. It does require this militarization because we've offered the olive branch has been offered. Okay, we'll give you $1,000, $2,000
self-deport, yeah.
to self-deport and go back to your own country. If you know that you're here illegally, we'll make it easy for you. And several million people apparently have done that. You know, I think that the more humane thing to do would be this: to make it illegal for someone who's here illegal to have a bank. Okay, to monitor their taxes.
I have an
They
idea.
can't repatriate money, and they can't get a job.
They
Close off the economic opportunities.
close off the companies. No one's going after the companies
Right.
who are hiring all these
Right.
people.
Oh,
No,
interesting.
no,
For
Trump
the last-
exempted
For
them.
the last 25 years, no
All of
one
them?
is touching them because they want the workers.
Right.
That's the other problem.
Well, that's the uniparty and the-
This is like this is why the Republicans and Democrats, they had this unwritten pact. Let's just let everybody in because the Republicans are happy because all these companies get all these workers for a low pay, and the Democrats are happy because you're doing this
Right.
humanitarian thing. And like, so that's what's another reason why it was kind of unfair. And I know a lot of immigrants who are under duress, or I was talking last time, my friend's daughter-in-law was in prison. She got out of prison. Thank God.
Oh,
They had to
good.
spend a lot of money to do that, but now she's out of prison. She's an undocumented immigrant from Venezuela. They came 10 years ago planning on getting asylum. That was like kind of accepted as a standard process at the time. Okay, it was a risk, but now like it was just shut off all of a sudden. I mean, you don't have to do it that way. I mean, why not do it in a way that's more gentle, respecting people's families and lives?
Why did Trump exempt the hotels and the farms?
Well, did he? I know he said that, but then like the next day, because the right wing was so upset about it that he came back and said, "Well, maybe not." So
Yeah,
I don't know what that.
Yeah,
was.
I just think the militarization to get slightly higher than Obama or slightly higher than like Biden levels of deportation is like, is it worth the militarization?
Those
Tim
are not-
Pool
those
Tim
are-
Pool said yes in that monologue. He says,
Right.
and they're going to make some mistakes, and it's worth it. We have to get these people out.
Do criminals obey the second? Do criminals obey gun laws?
Do criminals obey gun laws?
Not always.
It-
Often,
Okay,
no.
Okay,
it's-
do
is
people-
the gun the crime, or is the murder the crime? Right?
Right.
You can murder somebody without a gun, right?
Right.
The
My-
crime is
my-
independent of the Second Amendment, right?
Right.
Do illegals have Fourth Amendment rights?
No.
What's remind me of the Fourth Amendment?
Modest.
So what do you do?
Remind
when,
us the Fourth Amendment
uh,
for people
Due
listening.
process.
Oh, okay.
unreasonable
Yeah, yeah,
search
yeah.
and seizure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like when your friends, the documented and non-documented ones, show up and somebody says papers, please, right? That you won't know. It's Schrodinger's like
Cat.
box, you know. You won't know whether you violated Fourth Amendment rights until they show their papers, right?
Right.
And then what happens? Like, should they be held accountable for going to a Venezuela that immigrated legally or a Venezuela that immigrated illegally, right? And, you know, until they open that box, should it be Fourth Amendment rights or should we just do away with the Fourth Amendment altogether?
Yeah. Well, no, we obviously shouldn't give away the Fourth Amendment. What I'm saying though is that the question about guns.
Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
Not really. Let me
Not quite.
Let me say this though. The reason that people who are pro Second Amendment argue against more gun laws is that criminals don't obey the law. So all you're doing is hampering people who do obey the law from having an easier access to self-defense. Okay? So the same would be true of these particular people. They are getting out the worst of the worst in places like Minnesota, hostile environments. So it is going to have to be militarized. It wouldn't have to be militarized if Minnesota would cooperate, which is why you have ICE raids going on all over the place that you never hear about.
That's right.
Like in Houston, like in Louisiana, like in Florida. Okay, there are lots of states that are cooperating with ICE and you never hear a boo. Okay, why? Because it's peaceful, it's cooperation. The easiest way, by the way, to deport people is to meet them at the jail. They're already locked up. They've already been arrested. They're already disarmed. They're not in a neighborhood full of people. That's not demilitarized. It's basically lawyers. Okay, and why won't they do that? Ask yourself, why won't they do that? Why won't Minnesota do that? They finally today agreed.
Some cities will, some cities won't. But what they constantly do is they show up at court hearings for the immigration applications that you're talking about, and they'll tackle people that are trying to do it the right way.
Tackle them when they're running away.
Because they're saying, okay, you have a 30-day waiting period for your asylum case. And it's like, well, during that waiting period, we can deport you immediately, right? It's this legal gray area.
I would be fascinated to see if the numbers of, and when I say criminal, I mean a unique crime outside of illegal immigration.
I would very much like to see those numbers.
If the states where people are cooperating, if the numbers of criminal immigrants is higher that are being deported than in the blue states in the cities where people are obstructing justice. Yeah. That would be fascinating.
And we're creating perverse incentives, right? The whole question about do they follow the law, right? Do gun owners follow the law? Do criminal gun owners follow the law, right? Well, naturally, no. The thing is, it's like, are we incentivizing illegal immigrants to stay in the shadows where more crime is committed, where they can't call the cops, where they can't have, like, if they are victimized by a crime, they can't call the cops, right? The situation with the little boy is tragic because, right, the parents probably think the kid's going to have a better life here than wherever they're going to get deported back to, right?
Do you think that's what was going through the dad's mind when he ran?
I don't know what was going through the dad's mind. I'm saying it's possible.
If he is the dad.
Even if he is the dad. Yeah. But like if the kid was born here, then it's possible that they're thinking he's going to have a better life here, or I can find him later, you know?
As a parent, I can't even fathom
me neither.
In a split second thinking that anything could be better than being with me.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lovely idea that you think that is what went through their minds.
I think it could.
It's optimistic, and that's very sweet.
That's not the first time that's happened. No. It happened a few months ago.
It happens. I mean, the kids in cages thing, right? I mean, it's happened forever. Right. Yeah.
Well, the kids in cages thing again. That's about separating children from adults that may or may not be their parents, but may be their
human traffickers.
And plenty of times you ask these people questions, 5-minute interview. Like, that's not your dad.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So that's for the well-being of the child.
Sometimes, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so what could we do about this whole Minneapolis? Well, Evan, do you have an idea?
Sanctuary cities.
This is an article I wrote at everymancommentary.substack.com, just hot off the presses today, so to speak. And it's called Time to Call the Left's Bluff on a National Divorce. And no, I don't want a national divorce for a lot of reasons, and I've written about why that would almost be impossible, given the geographic separation of, like, say, blue states, for example. So you got, like, California, then Minneapolis or Minnesota.
Well, at least California's on the edge. That makes it a little easier.
Yeah, I mean, you could do the West Coast, but then you lose the West Coast as a point of defense, right? So, like, that there's a reason that, America would want to have all the land. But then I'm coming back, so having written that, I'm coming back and saying, well, maybe we need to start calling the bluff in as a negotiating tactic of basically saying, it sounds like the left hates this country, okay? 1619 Project, DEI, slavery. I mean, my son is taking a college class, and it's only about slavery and Native Americans. I mean, that's the whole history of America from the Academy's point of view. Nothing about the heroic Revolutionary War, the pioneers, the settlers, the unique American spirit, and all the good that we've done as a country, all the incredible advancements and putting a man on the moon. Yes, we put a man on the moon. So discovered the earth wasn't flat, so all these sorts of amazing things. Nothing about that. It's just that, basically America is a terrible place. So, well, if we're so terrible, then leave. And my argument is that if you start the negotiation, then you have the upper hand. And you can lay out the terms. And I think that there could be some terms on which we let Minnesota join Canada. You know, it would be totally demilitarized, for example. This is one of the reasons national divorce would be difficult, is we got like nuclear silos in the ground in California, you know. Well, they don't get to keep those, you know. I mean, you know, you leave the country, you know, we take those back. So we're gonna take those silos
Unless
back.
it's Afghanistan.
We're gonna put bases in your state, just like we have a base in Okinawa and we have a base in Germany. Probably have a base in every other country on earth. We're gonna put a base in that country if you decide to leave, right? That state, it'll become a country, whatever it is. I mean, these are the terms. You don't like America, that's fine. You can leave. We'll give you what you want. You're a peacenik. You don't like the military. We'll demilitarize you. Okay. We'll defend the coast for you. Okay. We'll do that as a favor to you. We can still trade. Okay. But there will be limits on immigration. There will be limits on how many immigrants you get to import. And let's just see. Let's just see if Minnesota can survive.
You're going to build a wall to keep people from leaving?
No, he has a whole thing in there
no.
about how they get a few years to repatriate and go elsewhere. Yeah.
You said how many people you can import.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
sorry.
no, I would say that, for example, I mean, this is all, I'm just blowing smoke, right? Okay, so I don't know if any of this is actually possible, but the theory would be, say Minnesota left, right?
Sure.
They didn't want to be here anymore. They seceded. Fine, they start their own country with California. My point is, well, you don't get to import, you know, 1 million Chinese people into Minnesota because you're still a neighboring country to us, and that's in our interest. I'm saying, but also, there's a 3-year window, just hypothetically, where if people do want to leave Minnesota because actually they love America and they want to be part of America, not the commune that Minnesota is becoming, well, they have 3 years where they can leave without any penalty. But after that, we don't want your people. You know, what I'm saying is, I'm told that America is a terrible place, and and my point is that what Minnesota is acting like, and this is why I brought this up several times in this conversation, they don't have the right to tell federal government to not enforce immigration law. They do not have the right. They are in every way acting like the South, right? During the Civil War, they are saying you're an illegitimate country and we're leaving you. They're doing it all in name already. So call their bluff.
Well, and the article started by saying that you had a tenant here at the church that there was back and forth about, like, it wasn't exactly what they needed for what they were doing. And at some point you said, in all seriousness, look, maybe it's just this isn't the place for you because we don't have what you need, whatever. And then in that conversation, the guy or girl, I don't know who it was, said, oh, I don't know, actually, we've made some changes here and we've kind of gotten our groove and let's figure out a way to make it work. And so by saying, maybe it's time for you to go, it initiated a conversation like, well, maybe this isn't that bad and maybe I want to make it work. Maybe the same thing happens here. You know, you offer it like, listen, if you want to go, go. Well, actually, we love America.
Rumspringa works.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Define what that
That's
is.
the
Amish tradition. Go ahead.
Yeah, you said the Amish tradition of letting people when they're 16, I think.
Yeah, 16, 17,
they
go
get
out,
to leave for 6 months or so.
sow your wild oats,
party,
see the world, and they all come back.
A lot
not
of them
not
come
not all
back.
of them, but like
Yeah.
over 50%, and it's
Yes.
incredible.
That's funny. Rumspringa. That's what you should call it. Not
A national Rumspringa
for California
for Minnesota.
and Minnesota.
Well, I mean, you could sort of say that you're doing an extreme example of what's already happening now in the sense that states have a lot of autonomy. States make laws. I mean, I'll just give one example at the risk of talking about my university, where my university, University of Houston downtown, like every state university, is far to the left on almost everything. Okay, fine. I embrace that. I'm a conservative. I like being there. But our president just resigned, and he took a job in California, and so is that what we want? I mean, it's certainly kind of what you're approximating what you're asking for. Let's just separate. Let's just divorce. Let's let the Californians move to California and Texans move to Texas. I don't think that's the best way to go, though, because I guess to me that's like a lost opportunity. I want to stay at UHD as a conservative,
represent,
and like let's have a rich, like, our country is about. I don't want to like make it Pollyannish, but it is about rich, strong disagreements about substantive issues. And like now is an opportunity to do that rather than just reverse what the left did before in universities, where they had total totalitarian control of all discourse and stamped out all disagreement. To just reverse that, and like now the state of Texas has banned DEI discussions, critical race theory, certain gender theories. I don't think the solution is policing speech. That actually is the enemy. I think we need more freedom of speech, not less. And I think that would be a model that I would push for instead of pushing for the divorce. Now,
Yeah.
The right has evolved beyond silly things like the Bill of Rights.
Oh my gosh, Ken. You're shaking your head when you talked about freedom of speech. You're the biggest proponent of freedom of speech.
No. Yeah, I'm not on the right. I'm saying that freedom of speech, like you're going to get a lot of people talking about freedom of speech over the next 5 years. And it's speech for me, but not for thee. It's unfortunate.
well, and because like, I mean, up until just in the last 10 years, everyone speaking towards freedom of speech have been people on the right, because
Yes.
in universities and in academia, in law, in social media, the left has dominated in Hollywood. And so wokeism was kind of like this totalitarian, they were canceling people left and right. You couldn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not just repeat that mistake.
On the other side, yeah.
No, I agree.
No, I'm for free speech. I'm also, by the way, I mean, like Aaron McIntyre, whatever you think of him, he has been talking about like how you're going to see this drain from California, New York, probably Minnesota soon, although that's more complicated given how rural it is, really, to states like Florida and Texas. And we are seeing that the 2030 consensus or a census projection is pretty favorable towards conservatives or Republican states. So it's called the Great Sorting. So some of that is happening, but to me, we're back to federalism. Okay, we're back to supremacy clause. Okay, in the Constitution. Okay, I'm sorry, but the federal government, unless there's, I can't remember the exact phrase, but unless there's a good reason, not to follow federal law, the federal law wins. This has been debated countless times at the Supreme Court, and the supremacy clause always wins. And so this is what is happening in Minnesota with a coordinated effort with the signal chat with people at the highest level. If that is true, it is a coordinated effort to reject lawful federal law. And my point is, okay, you want to play that game? Let's go. Let's really play. You really don't like America. You really want to leave. Let's see how you like it. Put it up for a vote. Let's see what the people of Minneapolis or Minnesota want.
President Newsom in 2028.
Oh gosh,
Okay.
don't even
Well,
say it.
it'd be 2029.
Don't speak that.
8,
He'll be elected in
28.
9.
He'd be
Okay,
inaugurated, yeah.
President Newsom starts cracking down on guns. Greg Abbott says not here, right? Good or bad? I like sanctuary cities for guns,
Well,
I like the nullification crisis for runaway slaves. I like it when they do things that
Disobedience on
I
behalf of
like,
what's
right?
good. Yes.
And the question is about federalism, like you said.
Yeah. Well, I think I think that had Hillary won in 2016, guns would by now be illegal. Much speech would by now be illegal. I think that would have happened already.
And should states like Texas fight that?
Well, yeah, I think Texas might have seceded by now. If I'm serious, I mean, I think it would have been so catastrophic to have changed the Supreme Court to a six radical leftist communist.
But if they're going door to door,
to 3 constitutionalist, okay, so like that, the only thing keeping this country from being radically Marxist already, okay, is a handful of Supreme Court justices.
You mentioned the Supreme Court. Do you think we're on the cusp of a constitutional crisis? If y'all don't know what
I think we're living through a couple already.
No, by the strict definition of a constitutional crisis, which is like Supreme Court says no, and the executive branch says I am unencumbered by petty things like courts and goes along anyways. I think that this is going to set a dangerous precedent, particularly with the tariffs. But what you were saying would happen during the Clinton, I think is going to happen over the next couple of months. We'll see.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. With tariffs and stuff, right? To say you can't tariff Canada over fentanyl, right? Because of a national emergency. Article 1, tariff powers lie with the Congress, right? And national emergencies only get you so far. And when they say it's not a national emergency, what does the administration do? The question is who
determines what's an emergency?
Yeah.
Right.
That's tough.
And that would be what's called a constitutional crisis when the president decides, all right, screw the courts. So it's scary.
And the other thing is, part of the problem is it's not just Trump, but previous presidents and previous Congresses just, they don't want to do anything. They don't want to make decisions because they don't want to lose elections. So we have a kind of dysfunctional Congress, and then that forces the president to kind of do more. Anyway,
think we're going to get shut down again?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's coming up. Oh, the budget is coming up due.
Is it today?
No. In
a
a
couple days.
in a little bit, but
yeah,
like
it's less than a week, I think.
we're gonna shut down again
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I hope not, but,
We're limited on time, and so I wanted to just kind of mention, if people aren't aware, there's a major scandal brewing in the Charismatic Church, broadly speaking. If you know who Mike Winger is,
yes.
he's got a big YouTube channel. He's a good dude, and he's doing kind of got a lot of inside information on a guy named Sean Bowles. I skipped ahead one story here.
You're good.
And basically, it uncovers a lot of what you might expect. Some sexual deviancy, terrible behaviors, and false prophecy, which is the funniest to me.
The funniest one.
Because basically it's just cold reading. If you know what a psychic does and how they work, they do research on you in social media, and then they pretend to have knowledge of you. And that's basically been proven that this guy for a decade went on social media, went on websites, data mined people, and then said what they knew, humiliated countless people, and was a liar and a fraud. And the white pill is charismatic movement is full of lots of liars and thieves. Stay away from it. Find yourself a nice traditional church.
Yes, I don't think all charismatics fall in that camp. I will say hyper charismatic movement, including the New Apostolic Reformation, which is what Bethel's part of, is a mess. It's dangerous. It's theologically dangerous, and it tears families apart and all kinds of nasty things. And so I am glad that it's being exposed. Yes, that is the white pill. I don't think everybody that is charismatic, though, falls in that bucket.
I want to touch on the funny. I want to touch on the funny part, which is that they are accused of using a data scraper on all of their congregants, right? So that they can see, is this person having back pain? Oh, is this person having like a divorce problem? Oh, is this? And it's just like cold reading, right? That would then get funneled to the prophets at the pulpit, and then they would
have a word of knowledge.
Which is why I called it the Pentecostal Palantir. Palantir is the deep state apparatus by which they scrub data, facial recognition, and all that. And so funny that the Pentecostal church is doing that too.
Yeah, not just Pentecostal. Yeah,
charismatic, not Pentecostal.
Well, no.
It's different.
You can pay for data from phones and stuff like that. Like if you're willing to pay for it, so you can learn a lot about scrape their data and stuff like that. It's publicly available. Like that's what a lot of the GPS, like the 2000 Mules stuff is.
And by the way, if you're curious about the New Apostolic Reformation, Bethel Church, that whole movement, which I would call hyper charismatic, you can go back in our archives, and you can, if you just go into the search on podcast and you put Theology on Air, NAR, it'll pull it up. It's a 2-part episode. Pretty interesting.
NAR meaning New Apostolic Reformation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, it's a perennial problem for all churches that there's going to be some charismatic person who goes off base, and it's really exacerbated in the era of social media, because people can just go like big because they're angry, they're critical. I mean, those are the things which make you big all of a sudden. Excuse me.
I don't know. I'm angry and nobody's following me. I guess I'm not critical. I guess I'm not.
We gotta get you angrier.
No, Paul, get out of here.
No, but I mean, it's not just angry, or sometimes they're just like flat out liars and so forth. So because I was, this happens in the Catholic Church, of which I'm a part of, where you see scandals, unfortunately, and like even cardinals and this kind of thing. But yeah, so how do you help rein in these things? And I would totally agree with Evan. Like, big plug for the traditional churches. Like go with a church that has some history to it, like a tradition that can kind of rein it in, can kind of give some guardrails to us.
Yeah, and there's accountability. I mean, one of the if you watch, say, Mike Winger's YouTube shows about this, or this a Christian Post article, if you just read that, there's no accountability, and that's the problem. And I think the charismatic movement is more susceptible, either really hierarchical churches or charismatic movement where everything is kind of blamed on the Spirit. They're sort of susceptible to a lack of accountability. So you want that sweet spot where the church has 70 people on Sunday, one pastor.
Do you know anything like that?
Well, Oak Forest Anglican has that kind of localized oversight. But in all seriousness, I mean, the Presbyterians are named after their sort of philosophy of church governance, and in terms of multiple elders and deacons and oversight and accountability.
It's kind of how Congress works.
Yeah, it's kind of how it should work. So anyway, it doesn't really affect me. I kind of stopped following the charismatic movement a long time ago.
But it's so fascinating. You should keep
it is, but it's like I'm convinced. Like I'm convinced it's just there's so much rot in it. Even when it's not totally scandalous, it's still, I think, there's just so much dishonesty.
It's a lot of
but-
false teaching.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
are out of time. So
Oh, bummer.
not to
We didn't get to
cut
talk
us
about EMFs and sports and all kinds of juicy
well,
things.
we'll save that.
Okay.
I do think the fact that the players are not practicing at the San Francisco 49ers practice facility because it's next door to a gigantic EMF producing electrical grid is pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
In case you're interested, there is a whole theory that there are that San Francisco, the 49ers, are the most injured team. And they're the sort of soft tissue injuries that are the result of possibly EMF, I don't know, radiation, but so
Yeah.
there are all kinds of theories as to what is causing more of those kinds of injuries.
This is the first
So-
time I've ever been interested in sports.
yeah, it's legit. People in the Maha world are saying, "See, we've been trying to tell
Yeah.
you." Well, Paul, you came in midway through, so you didn't get to introduce yourself. So tell people where they can find you.
So I'm Paul Fortunato, and I'm at readingbooks.initiative.com, Reading Books Initiative, and I've got a podcast there as well on the meaning crisis. So,
And I'm not telling you jokers where I work.
But you can find him at our upcoming events. The next event we have is February 10th. We're going to be talking about who is Israel.
Ooh.
wow.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be. But don't worry, we'll have beer.
And
No.
a guest speaker, Nick
Oh,
Fuentes.
stop. That is false. That's false.
That's not happening.
Yeah, I just saw Charlie Kirk's former pastor Jack Hibbs was on the stage with somebody saying, "If you're not pro-Israel, you're not Christian," or something like that.
Ooh.
Don't look that up for yourself. Don't quote me on that. But that sort of thing is. Sorry, we do need to talk about that. Look forward to
Yes.
that. So, I'm Evan McClanahan. I'm the pastor at First Lutheran. Thanks for watching today. Until next time, we encourage you to question freely, think deeply, and disagree as needed.
Peace.